I welcome those present in the gallery joining us for this council meeting. Please stand if you're able for an expression of faith. We are honoured to serve our community. We pray for a community that is smart, culturally rich, prosperous, safe, connected and sustainable. We seek guidance to be an inclusive council, welcoming new ideas, engaging widely and deciding appropriately for our communities, both now and for the future. Paramount acknowledgement. The Mount Barker District Council acknowledges the past and present traditional owners of South Australia and pay our respects to the leaders of the traditional custodians of this land. We are honoured to be on the ancestral lands of the Paramount people. We acknowledge the first Australians as the traditional custodians of this continent, whose cultures are amongst the oldest living cultures in human history. We pay respect to the elders of the community and extend our recognition to their descendants who are present. Thank you. I have no apologies. I have apologies for Councillor Hardingham and Councillor Harding. I have no leave of absence. Questions from the gallery. Question time is a 15-minute segment at the beginning of the meeting to allow the members of the public in the gallery to ask questions. It is not a time to make a dedication, have intense discussion or debate. It is simply to ask questions. Questions must be presented with courtesy and respect and must not be of a personal, intimidating or vexatious nature. Questions are not restricted to those regarding agenda items, but they must be relevant to council or be within the jurisdiction of this council. Any questions outside of this policy will be disallowed. The minutes will reflect who asked a question and the topic. Should the question not be able to be answered, the question will be noted by the minutes secretary for a further investigation and responded to by administration staff at a later date. It is the responsibility of the person asking the question to provide their name and contact details to the minutes secretary. At the end of the meeting, there is also an opportunity for questions regarding items on tonight's agenda. Members of the public are advised that council members and staff appreciate opportunities to respond to questions outside of council meetings, as this can allow for a considered response to complex questions or questions requiring investigation. The meeting tonight is being streamed live to the internet and will subsequently be published and available on the internet for 1 year. Move to item 3. Do I have a mover for confirmation of the minutes of 1 May 2023 council meeting? Yes. Any questions in the gallery? After all that, not left out the important part. Thank you.
My question is about. My name is Penny Warland. I'm from the Macclesfield Community Association.
Thank you.
My question is about the community grants review. I saw a mention of it in the agenda tonight. I was wondering, is that community grants review going to have a public consultation process, and when will that happen, if it is?
I seek advice from the CEO for an officer to respond to that question. Mr. Warden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. There is consultation proposed. I'm just pulling up an email now. If you just bear with me, that confirms the time frame for that. I'll take that on notice. We'll come back to you. There is consultation proposed with stakeholders, community groups, as well as a briefing session with our council members in June.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Warren. Now to item 3. Do I have a mover for confirmation of the minutes of 1 May 2023 council meeting as circulated to members, Councillor Orr and Councillor Salati? All those in favour? That is carried. Do I have a mover for confirmation of the minutes of 15 May 2023 special council meeting as circulated to members, Councillor Hewitt and Councillor Lacey. All those in agreement? Please carried. On 4, conflict of interest declaration. Council members are reminded of the requirement for disclosure by members of material or general conflicts of interest in relation to items listed for consideration of the agenda. Members, are there any conflicts? Councillor Seeger.
Thank you. I have a conflict in interest in relation to the community grants. Firstly, in relation to rate rebate to the Cullington Memorial Hall, as I'm the treasurer. It's pretty clear. And B, the environment grants the Gorda Wellington Location Planning Association, as I'm the chair.
And Councillor Seeger, how do you intend to?
Oh, sorry, I intend to leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Seeger. Councillor Slater.
Thank you, mate. I have a conflict. I am on the governing council of Littlehampton Primary School. They have a grant in front. Also, and I'm staying in the room and voting.
Is that a material or a general conflict?
Sorry, the general.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Councillor.
I have a perceived conflict as a board member for the Children's Local Action Plan.
Before you continue, Councillor, you either have a general or a material. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I perhaps leave the room.
And what was that conflict, sorry?
As a board member of the Children's Local Action Plan.
Thank you, Committee. Thank you, Councillor. Deputations. We have 2 deputations tonight which have been accepted. Mr. Gamble, please come to the front as requested. I have allowed an extra 5 minutes if needed for your deputation. And council members, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Gamble at the end of his deputation.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, people in the gallery. I'm going to read what I'm going to say because I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation as well. So there's 2 at the same time to try and make it work. The painting above my desk is a thriving native forest. It emphasised the right to thrive, a right not supported by a past history, but the First Nations people, that right is a sacred duty. They take time to wander through country, to observe, understand, connect and heal. With our collective survival now in the balance, we must accept that thriving native forests play a critical role in keeping our planet habitable. Not only in national parks, but on farms and in urban communities. For too long, we've been operating outside the boundaries of Earth's life support system. Only an holistic statewide approach is any hope of healing our deeply fractured connection to nature and ensuring our own ongoing health, well-being and prosperity. Trees, the cornerstone, enabling forests to thrive, producing 50% of total rainfall, up to 50%. With their massive leaf area, they transpire huge volumes of moisture, massive amounts of volatile organic compounds, nuclei to form rain. This creates a low pressure area, drawing further large amounts of moisture inland from the ocean, up to thousands of kilometres away. They absorb and recycle this rainfall by creating and protecting an open soil structure. The litter layer decomposes to form humus, increasing soil's water holding capacity. Their extensive root system connects to other trees through an underground fungal network, enabling them to draw and share water, food and nutrients. All the above ensure forest viability by increasing soil moisture and fertility, preventing soil erosion, increasing summer rainfall and stream flow, decreasing summer temperature and evaporation, capturing carbon, maintaining biodiversity to pollinate and control pests and diseases. These benefits extend outwards to farmlands and urban communities in ever widening circles. In the 80s and 90s, I created a layered living urban forest garden in Doncaster in Melbourne. I had a wide diversity of local native flora, attracted many native bird species. They love to drink, swim, clean their bellies all day long. The habitat provided food, water, protection, nesting materials. In return, they went over every leaf, every branch, every day, with no pests, no diseases. 2010, with the help of 50 volunteers, I developed a steep sloping 4-hectare site in Doncaster that had many ancient distressed eucalypts which were suffering from drought and soil compaction. To restore their health, we planted layers of natives underneath, landscaped mulch to retain water, and in the process create a regenerating living urban forest in the middle of Melbourne. When we stopped mowing, unidentified new species appeared. In 2021, we moved to Mount Barker, beside the new wetland. As I looked at the state of the nearby parkland and interact with council staff, I realised there was a need to share what vision and experience I had and to set up a volunteer gardening group to strongly request increased council funding, personnel and infrastructure to more effectively manage and care for our natural environment. Thriving native forests are the essential key to ensuring sustainable and livable futures. This requires allowing our remaining remnant forests time to self-regenerate and heal by fencing them off from grazing animals, which impact soil structure, compaction and plant regeneration. Increasing the 13-hectare average size of remaining pockets to 30% of the state total land area, and Australia is looking at that at present. So restoring the balance between natural and managed system. Planting 25% of farms to native forests without losing any productivity. Developing urban forest communities to 50% canopy cover, which many councils are already doing, and the whole city of Melbourne is doing. Connecting forest enclaves by networks of road and quickside planting and encouraging statewide land councils to work together for common goal, to educate and enlist community support. Native forests must become invaluable future asset and critical urban infrastructure, and it must be financed accordingly, not just as an afterthought. What I'm asking is not just pie in the sky. Niger, a country on the edge of the Sahara, with very little forest, serious famine, blazing summer heat, little rainfall and desert wasteland appearance. Victorian agronomists visited there in 86 to plant farmland trees. Most of them died. One day, drawn to look at an insignificant bush, he realised it was an underground tree. And all around it was an underground forest. Local farmers were cutting off the many shoots that grew and selling them for firewood. He convinced them to select one shoot to let it grow into a tree. The farmers then grew crops among the trees. He gradually extended his influence to local tribal leaders and then to central government. When he left 30 years later, the farmlands had more than 200 million trees, 40 per hectare. The whole landscape, climate and economy of the whole nation have been transformed. And if you have a look at a picture from the air, you'll see that. Ethiopia also had a ravaged landscape and terrible famine. Deeply moved by Niger's experience in 2006, they changed their practice. All the things I listed essential for the people in South Australia and Mount Barker to do, they did. Whole villages came together to learn, plan, labour for change, strongly supported by government. Within 10 years, they had thriving forests, farmlands, and village communities. Livelihood of 30 million people was transformed. They changed their climate and their prosperity. They learned to tap the potential of whole nations of people working together for a common cause. If we had a 4-day working week, we could do the same. As I've got 10 people helping me. All right, thank you. I could have had 30 because of their work. The village has finished off and hand-fed the livestock to regenerate remnant forests, planted massive numbers of trees, extensively landscaped and mulched to retain rainwater to protect and develop soil. All this by hand. The native forest flourished, biodiversity increased, and crops were protected. The vision and challenge I'm presenting is massive, not impossible. Doing nothing is not an option. Other cities, councils, and nations in Australia and overseas are meeting the challenge, changing things, preparing for a future that's livable, sustainable. It means being willing to live within a layered, living, thriving native urban forest. It requires being willing to act now, not in some indeterminate distant future. We've destroyed over 90% of our regional native forests in South Australia. We've lost over 70% of their biodiversity. Many native species are extinct or nearly so. Our remaining forest pockets are unsustainable, deeply stressed and collapsing. Adelaide, with only 10% tree canopy cover, lowest in Australia, and with rapidly growing heat-on effect, is still cutting down 75,000 trees per year. Is racing towards extended summer heat waves with unlivable 50-degree plus days, temperatures 10 to 15 degrees above surroundings, and 50 days per year exceeding 35 degrees. Much of South Australia is facing the same scenario with more frequent catastrophic wildfires, fires and flooding events. Temperatures and evaporation rates will continue to increase. Rainfall will continue to decline. The health of our forest ecosystem will continue to deteriorate. These trends will accelerate due to worldwide climate change, rapid uncontrolled urban development, continued uncontrolled forest clearing, and unrestricted grazing of remnant forests. Mount Barker, with only 15% canopy cover, will not fare much better, especially with our rapid development and projected population growth. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and say it's all nothing. Changing climate, declining forest viability, loss of biodiversity will increasingly impact our health, well-being and economy. We need to act now before it's too late. The council may be some way towards this vision for the people of South Australia, and Mount Barker are looking for actions, not just words. Thanks for listening.
Mr. Gamble, maybe
Yes.
a councillor has a question for you, possibly? Any questions for our guest? Yes, councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not so much a question, perhaps. I think the scope of your endeavour is enormous, and therefore, being very new on the council as well, I don't understand our scope of action here. But you make incredibly relevant points. I think the important take is that this issue is not something that is left to individuals or individual communities or organisations within those communities, or particular levels of government or any one entity. This is across the board something that we have to do together. And yeah, really, I insist that our council seriously consider what you're saying. It's in the better interest of all of our communities here and everyone else. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The paper which I gave you before this meeting had a much wider focus than I was able to focus on here. So I was very narrow in what I said, but it's much bigger than that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Ms. Penny Wallen, do you have a deputation, please?
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, council staff, and members of the public. I'm from the Maxwell Community Association, and I'd like to talk about Crystal Lake Park today. How does it work? Thank you. Briefly about our community association. We're a group of volunteers. We manage the Macclesfield Institute in an agreement with the council and advocate for our town. We support our community's interests and their social groups. So we have a number of groups that sort of sit under our umbrella, and they're all very active. Some of you might have attended events run by the Young at Heart Club, for instance, or the History Group. And we're now exploring the Resilience Group coming in under the umbrella of the Institute. The association. I'm having trouble working this. What am I supposed to do?
Thanks.
What do I push? Thank you, Steve. That one? Okay, thanks. We hold events for our community, and some of them have been new events, like the Community Pursuits Arts event that was held on the weekend and was really successful. And I'd just like to mention, we really appreciated council support for that event. It was fantastic. We have an annual program of events like the Strawberry Fete, Australia Day Breakfast, and so on. And we've run a number of large arts events, sculptures at Crystal Lake, for instance. We raise money for community investment. We've raised funds for projects in public parks and in the Institute.
Just say next.
Next. So, Crystal Lake Park is a large reserve on the edge of Macclesfield. It's often referred to as Lord Robertson Park, but mostly locals call it Crystal Lake Park. Our association has had a long history of involvement in advocating for public access. It used to be closed and used as a school camp. We've invested in the park, we've had events, we've developed a sculpture garden, done bush regeneration, and managed leases of parts of the park. Next. So some of you may have visited, and you will know this central area in the yellow circle. That's what I'm mainly going to be talking about today. That's where the lake is, that's where the sort of structures are, that's where people maybe spend their time. There's a lot to talk about this park, but today I'm just going to talk about traffic management, access paths and furniture. Next. So last year, council some councillors who were councillors in the previous term may remember this. We were having hoon driving behaviour in the park, churning it up on a fairly regular basis, and as a result of that, the council allocated funds to put in place a traffic management solution. So to that, next. So that has been happening the last month or so. The Community Association and the Macclesfield Men's Shed have worked with council staff to design and implement this traffic solution. So the bollards have been installed and gates. Next. And that's what they look like now. And that solution was designed by a volunteer, very skilled retired architect in our community who's been doing a lot of work with our association and the Men's Shed. Next. And there's the guys today, this afternoon, cleaning up the bollards for the final inspection. So one on the left's a retired engineer, one in the middle is a retired architect, and the one on the right used to teach at TAFE. So really practical, experienced, skilled people in our community who are doing a lot of fantastic things. Next. Today, the solution was inspected, and I believe Bill has passed muster and is approved by council as being completed. Thank you. Now I'm going to talk about another issue. Sorry, I do want to say thank you for that. It was really great that council backed the community solution, and that we were able to do it using our skills, and that the Men's Shed was able to make some money for their programs and their facility as a result of that. Now I'm going to talk about this lady, who I'm going to call Meg, because I didn't get a chance to ask her permission to use her real name on a recording. So we'll call her Meg, and that's her dog Jeb. I went down to the park to take a few photos for this presentation, and I met Meg for the first time, and we had a good chat about her visits to the park. Next. So because she's an older lady and she uses a walking stick, and she struggles to get around a bit, she just walks on that driveway area. There's an access toilet there now, and so more people can go to the park who might have disabilities or older people, and the park is being used more as a result of there being a toilet, which is great. But for her, most of this park is inaccessible. a lot of people in our community can't get around the rest of the park. So there's a disability access toilet, but basically it's just the toilet and the car park that's accessible for many people in our community. She also can't let the dog off the leash in case he runs down, because she can't go down after him. Next. So, so we have an access problem in the park. Like it's kind of got some steep parts, it goes up a valley, there's a creek down the middle, the Angus River, and it has a lake. It's a really beautiful place to be, and lots of people want to spend more time there. Next. But Mackie's actually full of mess. This is the point I want to make clear. We have an older population than the balance of the district, the average, and of the average in Australia and South Australia. Next. So that yellow arrow is pointing to our older people. So people over 50 is in Macclesfield, it's the red line, and in the district, it's the grey line. We have a much older population than the average in the district. And of course, a lot of older people do struggle with the mobility as they age. Next. This also shows that. Next. So this shows the increase over the last 10 years of older people in our community as our population has aged. Next. So we've been thinking about how to address this problem, and we've come up with what we think is a good solution, and it's a path network in the park. And we've been working with the John Farrington, who I mentioned, the designer, and come up with a scheme, and we've been talking with the council staff about it, and I wanted to talk to you about it tonight. So this has 3 sections in coloured lines which show this access path concept. The first is the start of the path, and we're calling it the sensory trail. It's intended to have artworks, a seat, some garden beds, and be kind of a feature. And I don't know if this can point. Can't really point with this, but it shows the toilet in that little square at the top. That's the toilet there, okay, where you saw a photo of Meg standing. And then the second and third sections in the orange and the blue are the additional stages of the path that will get down to the lake level. Next. So these are the sketches of the sensory trail that we've been working on getting approval for. And as I mentioned, it has a number of features. So it'll be a special place, and it has retaining and a big rock and a path network that will make that part of the park more accessible. Next. And so the other 2 sections, so that's the yellow bit, the other 2 sections in orange and blue will be a way of getting from the car park level down to the lake level. Okay. So I'm going to come back to the access path solution. I'm just going to talk briefly about furniture. So in the park, we have a bit of a furniture problem, especially for our older people. So this seat you might think is not too bad, it's quite new. It was installed as part of the sculpture trail through the Adelaide Hills, but it is a bit low and doesn't have backs or armrests. So for someone like Meg, that's probably going to be she's not going to be awfully comfortable using that seat. Next. Then there's the old picnic furniture that is left over from when it was a school camp. And it's quite degraded, hasn't been maintained, it's falling apart. You can see that one there. Next. Then there's this one, which is growing lichen and is kind of like a work of art, really. Hasn't been a lot of maintenance on the furniture in the park, as you can see. But my personal favourite is this one. That used to be a seat. There were 2 seats beside the lake, and they fell apart, they were removed, and there's a stump left. So that's all we've got, and it's a 20-hectare park, and quite a lot of people visit it. So we've been looking at solutions, and we have a fantastic group at the Macclesfield Men's Shed who love building furniture, and they've been building, I'm almost finished, won't be long. Okay, been building furniture for Macclesfield's reserves and also around Harndorf and Chunga, and here's some examples of things that they've built and that have been installed in public places. So I have some funding for them to build more seats, potentially some to go crystal. Next. Okay, so our plan for the park would be paths. It meets the council's plans and strategies. Next. So you're thinking, how much is this going to cost us? Well, the good news is the Community Association has raised already most of the money we need from the project, for the project. We have all of those groups already contributing funding, including council is giving us plants, in-kind support and $2,000. And altogether, so far, I have raised commitments to over $65,000 to do the path and the seats. So the first 2 stages are fully funded, including the sensory trial, including the artworks, gardens, etc. But stage 3, the last section to get down to the lake level, it requires some support from council. So this is what it's going to cost. So if you were to give the Community Association a grant, we could do it for $12,000. The council has additional costs for project management and contingency and things like that. So the budget request to finish that path network to get from the toilets level down to the lake would be around $23,000. And you may think, well, it's late in the process, we're about to approve our budget. But I just want to reassure you, I have been working with the staff, communicating with the staff about this project for a good 12 months, so it's not a surprise to them. And we've been getting design sections, reviewed and approved for construction. So that's where we're up to. I think that's just about the end. Was there one more slide? Yes, thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Walland. Members, are there any questions of Penny Walland, please? Councillor Hewitt.
Hi. Can you just clarify that last slide? You said the funds required was 12K, but then in the 23-24 budget, you required 23K. Can you just explain? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine. What I've discovered through the Bollard project, actually the traffic management one, is that if a project is funded by council, it requires 25% extra on top of the construction cost for contingency and project management. So if that was a grant I got from another level of government, it only costs $12,000 to finish the project. But if we have to add the project management contingency for the whole project, it's up to about $23,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Then, thank you.
Welcome. Thanks very much. Pass that over.
Move to item 6. Questions with notice. Councillor Slessy, you have a question about the City Centre Catalyst project. We've received your answer. That meets your needs that reply.
Thank you. I'm happy with the line. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, you had a question with notice and the answer provided by officers. Are you content with the answer that you were given?
No, I'm not, but that's okay. Thank you.
Then I invite you to contact staff after this meeting at another time and work through those issues. Thank you very much. Okay, questions without notice? Are there any questions without notice, members? No questions without notice. Motions on notice. I have no motions on notice. Motions without notice. Members, are there any motions without notice? Item 10, petitions. I have not received any petitions. Move to item 11, recommendations from committees. Community Grants Community Grants Assessment Committee, 16th of May 2023. I seek somebody to move that report be accepted. We'll go to 11.1.1 where there are multiple items. 11.1.1 has discretionary rebates. And somebody moved that those community discretionary rebates. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Orr, Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Orr,
No, thank you, Mayor.
any other members? Councillor Hewitt,
You want that?
all those in favour? That's carried. Move to item 11.1.2, the Community and Environmental Grants 2022-2023. I seek someone to note the report to be accepted. Is there somebody willing to note? Councillor Orr and Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Orr, this is to note the report. Do you wish to say?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
And councillor, any other councillors? No. All those in favour? Carried. The report is noted. Okay. We now move to the actual motion itself for the community and environmental grants. Forgive me while I look at all my pages. Do I have somebody move the motion for that? Councillor Hewitt and Councillor Orr. Councillor Hewitt, you have the floor.
Is that my right? Yeah.
You may.
Thank you.
Councillor Orr.
Thank you, Mayor. This was quite a lengthy meeting the Community Grants Assessment Committee undertook. We were there for over 3 hours. The agenda was almost 550 pages and takes up about a third of this agenda. There was a hell of a lot of due diligence taken to assess these applications, and I'm fully supportive of where the committee ended up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Orr. Any other member wish to speak? So there is a notice in writing in red there that possibly wasn't in the agenda that was sent out to you people, that it was moved by councillor, or that the council increase the available 2022-23 budget for the environmental grants program from 10,000 to 11,585, and the additional funds of 1,585 be derived from the community grants program budget. That is the motion that you are about to vote on. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to say to that? Councillor Hewitt to close the debate, or Councillor Orr, actually.
Nothing further, right, Mayor, thank you.
And the second. Very good. All those in favour? Carried. At this stage, do we invite the councillors back in? More to go. Just go on with this one. Okay, so on the screen you'll see, having assessed all of the applications received using the program criteria, recommends that council allocate the community environmental grants as determined by the committee from submissions derived from attachment 1 and 2 as shown in the tables. The committee meeting, successful community grant applications totaling $46,805.50. Unsuccessful community grant applications on the table as amended, and successful environmental grant applications on the table as amended totaling 11,585, and unsuccessful environmental grant applications. Do I have a mover? Councillor Orr. Do I have a second by Councillor Jones? Councillor Orr.
Thank you, Mayor. I think when I just got up and spoke a moment ago that I did cover pretty well everything that is required. These figures were determined by the committee after lengthy discussion. Just because we do have surplus money available doesn't mean we have to granted. It's important that the committee assesses these applications, make sure that they meet the requirements. And if they don't this time, they're more than welcome to apply in subsequent rounds. So I'm very comfortable with how it's looking right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, and secondly,
No, thank you, Mayor.
any other member wish to discuss this matter? Councillor Hall,
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
all those in favour of item 1? Carry. Move to item 2, that council. All right. We don't. Yep, moving right along. Looks like the 2 members that absented themselves from the meeting return to the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
You have a point of order, councillor? Please stand.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I'm not over top of this at all. I may have had something to say or possible amendment to move on that previous motion, but I fully understand if misspoke of that. My apologies. Is there any avenue for that to be reopened briefly?
We can bring it to the next meeting, councillor, that's my understanding.
Okay, yes, maybe you could make that point, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a point of order before I carry on? Sorry, councillor.
Question in relation to 1121.
I'll take the question.
Yeah, just wondering whether the figures are inclusive of all staff costs.
We'll come to that in the debate. You can ask that question, sir. But that's a heads up for the staff to get ready for it. Okay. So we move to 11.2.1, the draft 2023-24 SSRP annual business plan. Do I have to move it? Councillor Hewitt. And seconded Councillor Hall, Councillor Hewitt.
Nothing further to add.
Right, Councillor Hall.
Nothing right now, thank you.
Any other person wish to speak to this motion, including Councillor Rothman?
Yeah, just a question.
Can you repeat the question?
Are the figures inclusive of all staff costs?
That's something I don't know. I will seek the CEO's advice.
And Ms. Hancock is on feed.
Just Hancock, give you.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly within the council report itself and that include, sorry, the SSRP board report to include staff costs.
The comprehensive?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to this? Then all those in, actually, Councillor,
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor.
just a better check. All those in favour? Carry. 11.2.3.2, Summit Sport and Recreation. Financial report January to March. Somebody move that, council accept that report. Councillor Westwood, do I have a second there? Councillor Vote. Councillor Westwood.
Nothing, you would.
Councillor Vote. Any other member? Councillor.
Look, just that the income compared to budget continues to be a worry. I think income of 68,000 compared to budget of 176. So yeah, I think we're all aware of that, but we need to turn that around.
Thank you. Before you next answer me, Councillor Westwood, if you still prefer not to stand, that's fine for the rest of the meeting.
Good day.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Now, all those in favour? Motion is carried. 11.2.3, capital projects update. Do I have a person to move that way? Councillor Hall, Councillor Westwood, Councillor Hall,
Nothing to add, Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Westwood,
Nothing, Mayor.
Any other members? Councillor Orr. All those in favour? Motion to carry. Move to reports, item 12.1, the award of the contract for footpath and curb works. Do I have a person to move that motion? Councillor Selassie, seconder. Councillor Westwood. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Westwood.
Nothing to stop me.
Any other member? Councillor Selassie. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Move to item 12.2, growing regions, council excluded from grant funding. Do I have a person to move that will be accepted? Councillor Hewitt and the seconder, Councillor Jones. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I find that this is very disappointing. I'm very glad that staff are on top of this and going to be writing letters. It's critical that we get the opportunity for this funding. And so, am I speaking to the right motion?
You are.
I am.
Can you speak as well?
Just checking. So yes, I fully support this. I thank staff for the hard work they're going to do to make sure that we get our hat back in the ring.
Thank you. Before we get too much further, I have been presented with a letter from Rebecca Sharkey, who's a federal member, where she is making a personal request herself that the federal government review the geographic area eligibility criteria to include the Mount Barker District Council and the Adelaide Hills Council LGA regions. And afterwards, I'll seek someone to move that this letter as it is before me is tabled into the council. So we'll continue on to Councillor Jones.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Any other member? Councillor Harry, Seager.
Just quite extraordinary that for a fund that is specifically designed towards the growing regions program, and Mount Barker is one of the fastest growing councils in the country, should actually be excluded. Clearly, someone in Canberra doesn't know where Mount Barker is.
Thank you. Is there any other person who would like to speak for this? Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Part of my comments were going to be on the in the convenience category in regards to what is country and what's the larger Adelaide's sort of area. Most of our council area falls in a metro vehicle registration. And yet all of our council area is a country area to what I think delivered. Very interesting sort of situation.
Does any other person wish to comment on this matter? Could I seek someone from this room move that letter from? Why not? So that's my new motion. Why can't I take it? We've got a motion. I'll take that as a separate motion on the motion. All those in favour?
I haven't closed
Close the debate, please.
so yes, just in closing, I just want to make note to the people that are watching on the internet that basically, sorry, just find where it said it here, larger cities like Geelong and the Gold Coast are eligible. Yeah, they're saying they're mapping to that Mount Barker and Adelaide Hills aren't eligible, and I'm just saying that for the sake of the recording, that this is obviously a mistake. And so I'm pretty hopeful it will get rectified. So thank you.
And thank you. And just for the sake of the same completeness, the purpose of tabling this letter, possibly in the next motion, is raises those exact points made by the federal member. So, but thank you for letting that be known a bit more widely. Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour? Carried. I now seek someone to move that the letter from Rebecca Sharkey to be tabled. And thank you, Councillor Orr and Councillor Selassie. Any comment? Councillor Selassie. Councillor Orr. Sorry, anybody else?
And
Thank you, Councillor Seager.
to thank Rebecca Sharkey is writing this letter, and hopefully it's as successful as the last, everything in terms of the better funding we.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Nothing further to add, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour of tabling the letter? Carried. Item 12.3, report title, Audit Risk Committee Member Appointment. We would need seek people to move these one at a time. The first one is that council appoint Mr. Mark Davies as an independent member of council's Audit and Risk Committee for a 4-year term. Or can I have someone move that? Councillor Westwood, seconded. Councillor Selassie, Councillor Westwood,
Nothing, Mayor.
Councillor Selassie. Any other member? Councillor Westwood.
Again, nothing, Mayor.
All those in favour? Carried. On 4.3.2, we appoint Mr. Kim Delator as an independent member of council's Audit and Risk Committee for a 2-year term commencing. Move Councillor Seeger, seconded. Councillor Selassie. Any comment? Councillor Selassie.
Nothing more than there, I'm more than qualified.
Any more input? All those in favour? Carried. Item 3, that council vote to appoint a council member to the Audit and Risk Committee via a secret ballot as set out in attachment 2. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hewitt, seconder. Councillor Seeger. Nothing there's much debate on this, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. We now commence the ballot process, I believe. We do. So I now seek nominations for appointment as a council member of council's Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Hewitt.
Through you, Mayor, please nominate Councillor. Sorry. Through you, Mayor, please nominate Councillor Jones.
You may. Councillor Jones, do you accept the position? Nomination is open.
Thank you for the nomination, but I respectfully decline. Thank you.
Councillor Grosser.
I will nominate you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grosser. I will accept the nomination. Do I have any further nominations, please? In that case, I recognise that I will be the council members on the Audit and Risk Committee without having to vote. I need somebody to move that way, please. Councillor Selassie and Councillor vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We now move to 12.4, develop a funding contribution to upgrading of the intersection at Meadows. Do I have somebody move that way? Councillor Hewitt, seconder. Councillor Jones, Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that is a very good outcome, and I just want to congratulate staff on getting that result.
Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other member? Councillor Seeger.
Thank you. This is quite a complicated little arrangement, this, in terms of the history that has led up to this, and I'm quite satisfied with the report, but I'm particularly pleased with the clarity with which the staff have put this forward to us so we can understand just how complex it is. And one question or one issue that sits in this is that the amount of funding being discussed here or divine to pay in relation to this, in relation to cost of the roundabout, is, I would suggest, significantly lower, but I think it's clear, I think it's important that the community understand that the roundabout wasn't on the agenda when this was put forward, and therefore it would be unreasonable to expect them to pay that kind of money in relation to something that dates back all those years. So I'm very satisfied with this and will support it, and I am very pleased for the clarity of this report. Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Hewitt, please.
Nothing more to add, thank you.
All those in favour? Carried. On 12.5, delegation of authority to award electricity supply contracts. Do I have a person move items 1, A, B, and C? Councillor Westwood move, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Mayor. It just seems to be an eminently suitable arrangement for the CEO to be delegated these powers.
Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the staff are more than capable of dealing with this. I think it's a great plan.
Thank you for that. Any other member? Councillor Westwood.
Nothing more, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.6. The AFL gather round, move council, I'm sorry, I'm seeking a councillor to move the motion for 12.6. I'll say it again, sorry, Councillor Seeger. We're up to item 12.6, the AFL gather round, to move that the report where it's recommended that council authorise the mayor and CEO to write to the Premier and CEO of AFL requesting the summit round be considered at the summit sport, the gather round football match be at the Summit Sport and Recreation Park be considered for the future games. Councillor Salati. Move Councillor Seeger. Thank you for your indulgence, Councillor Seeger. Councillor.
I would love to see it in that market again, so I very much support the writing and I will see it back again soon.
Councillor Seeger.
I concur.
Beautifully put. Any other member? Councillor Grosser.
Yeah, look, I fully support the motion. Just reading the report, it references council expenditure of $550,000 for infrastructure, which would have occurred in time, but brought forward for good reason. It doesn't reference staff costs, which obviously extended. Do we have an estimate on what that component of the costs was?
I don't, but I'm pretty sure Mr. Stewart would like to ask a staff member to respond to that. Hancock.
Through the chair, we do have those costs. It's only been, I think, 5 weeks since the game, so we are still collating invoices. And under the contractual arrangements we have, which are confidential, we can recompense ourselves with some of those costs from the AFL.
Okay, so I'll look for you this information. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak? Before I invite Councillor Celeste to close the debate, I personally would like to again give my full commendation to the Mount Barker District Council staff. It was a phenomenal exercise that had a very short lead in and absolutely nothing went wrong. And it's unfair to single out any particular staff member, but executive manager, it's my privilege to be able to say to you, Alison Hancock, thank you very much. I've never seen anybody put something together this big, that quick. Thank you. Councillor Celeste. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you, Worship. One thing I'd like to say is one thing I did notice was the advantage of this round was the excellent public transport, and I hope that augurs well for the state government considering the provision of further such good service in the future.
Then Councillor C, you'll be pleased to know in a little over 12 hours time, I'll be speaking to the Honourable Tom Coutts-Antonis and I will personally pass on your message in 13 hours time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Slatic.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. We move to 12.7, the procurement delegation levels to the CPO, and we have proposed additions there before you. For somebody who will move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Orr. And thank you, councillor Jones. Councillor Ward, can you speak, please?
Nothing to add there, thank you.
Councillor Jones,
Thank you.
any other member? Councillor Grosser.
Yeah, look, I'll just need a bit of convincing on this. Only because it's a lot of money, and as the next members, I thought we should be involved in deciding large expenditures. The practice in the past has been to make it an agenda item into this situation, and before us at a council meeting, and we have at times delegated larger sums if the timing was critical and couldn't wait for the next meeting. You know, we decided the meeting in advance to do that delegation, which I thought was fairly good practice. I just feel as elected members, I feel comfortable representing the community, spending their money. If it was run past us first, I'm open to persuasion. I'm also wondering, by memory, the previous figure was $500,000. I'm not sure on it. It's not in the report. So I'm wondering what the previous level was that we delegated.
This is just a report of the councillor. So at this stage, there is not a standard debate on it.
It's not a recommendation.
No, it's a report.
Point 7.
4.7, procurement delegation levels to the CEO. These are proposed additions to the report.
Right. We're not delegating up to 10 million.
Councillor, yes, sorry for the motion, Mr. CEO, thanks. Please speak.
So councillor, Cross is seeking a comparison of what the recommended changes are, the council's consideration to the previous practice. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Mr. Clancy does. I can say, while I'm on the feed, just to offer some commentary about this additional commentary. A simplistic way of looking at this is that whatever the delegations were in the past, which Mr. Clancy will address, through escalation of prices, we've seen inflation. So these are in part in response to the escalated prices, and also recognising that this council is a very, very busy council, and some of the numbers that we're dealing with are large. We seek approval from council via the budget process with large projects, and if you like, the procurement process is fairly complex. There's increasing layers of governance and local government, and to have an increase in the delegation threshold on the signing off, if you like, at the end of the last step in the process, will help make for better efficiency. So it's driven through efficiency. It recognises escalation in prices, and it recognises the workload the council has. I'll leave it to Mr. Clancy to speak to by how much these approvals are increased. And last but not least is the multi-year project number B, or part B. And that's recognising that, for example, the council has approved a significant investment in footpaths. Most will be well aware of a long-scale footpath, a large-scale, long-term footpath program. And to procure that work, it's more efficient to do it over a number of years rather than one, and to keep doing that contract each year. So that's another inclusion in this delegation to approve multi-year programs to recognise those forms of contracts.
Through you, Mayor, members, the answer to your question, councillor, is contained in the item. So dot point 7, the first bullet point underneath. So the delegation that was approved at the council meeting on 7 March was within approved budget funds. What that means is that if the council adopted budget had a provision of $20 million for project X, CEO could proceed with that procurement. This recommendations before you tonight changes that in some respects, as is outlined in point number 7, to be able to accommodate multiple year programs such as the footpath one and projects. And what it also does is it puts in place reporting mechanisms. Anything over $1 million is reported back on a half-yearly basis. And if there are concerns, then obviously the council can revisit the delegation arrangements. Similarly, what it does is it puts a cap of $10 million on that. What it also requires is that the multiple year programs or projects need to be consistent with the decisions that you've already made. And that is what's in the LTF, the long-term financial plan. So it is very strongly reinforced with those measures. In terms of the time delays and the efficiencies, you look at point 5. Point 5 is highlighting that for a particular project, such as a wastewater project, there's actually 5 separate procurements. One for the design and construction, one for the superintendent of the contract, one for the project management, one for the role of owner's engineer, and one to have a specialist cost review and estimation consultant available. So it's just one example of the extent of procurement that is now required because of the scale of which the council is now engaging to carry out these projects.
Right, I'm pondering, thank you.
Councillor Seger.
No, I'd like to thank Mr. Clinch and Mr. Stewart for that clarification about this accurate figure over a number of years, up to $10 million. The question I really have is now in relation to the register, the half-yearly register, and it says, the report says it to be reported half-yearly to all council members. Will that be a public report? A report available to the public? Thank you.
Mr. Clancy, while I request you.
Subject to.
With one qualification on the assumption that at the time of producing that, there's nothing that's still the subject of the confidentiality, i.e. the contracts have been executed.
Understood.
Is there any other council member that wishes to speak to this item? Councillor Slavic.
I just wanted to say I had similar questions to Councillor Grosser, and I'm grateful for further information because it's important to make a really informed decision, and it's $10 million for great money. So thank you for the additional information.
Thank you both. And thank you staff for clarifying what is not clear to even your humble me sometimes. So in that case, Councillor Ward, would you like to close?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think everything's been said by our staff and appreciate the clarification.
All those in favour? Carried. Move to item 12.8, ward donations, which you'll see coming up on screen in about 3 seconds. Do I have somebody who will move that we will cancel the ward? Do I have someone second? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Orr.
Don't typically speak to this item, but no, it all seems in order.
Councillor.
Nothing for the day.
I don't think anybody else is going to have anything to say, so all of those in favour? Oh, sorry.
I fail to forward my ward donations.
Then we have a minor quandary, which I'm sure the governance manager, officer manager, Ms. Sue Miller, could you clarify for me in the chamber what has to be? All right. You can announce it now, sir.
Yes, which is perhaps the normal meetings, but I did meetings in January, so apologies for that. I'd like to give $100 to Input Arts, 100 to Rocket Performing Arts.
Just, we don't have these type of champion here, right?
You okay?
Just follow
Right,
the
yes.
screen.
$200 to Hills Biodiversity. and $395 to National Trust for the Dun Crypt restoration.
Language. Is there any other person who wishes to comment on this? Councillor Wesley.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I unfortunately also failed to do so. Take a time, I think. So that being the case, I'd like to give $200 to the District Residents Association, if they're able to do. 200 to the land care. And 245. To the Harlem Institute.
Any other like students with the homework? Then before we close the debate, I invite Mr. CEO to make a couple of salient comments. You have the floor, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, normal practice is that we encourage you to submit these before the meeting. That's normal practice. And you'll also notice on the forms that you submit them in, you're required to put a purpose. And so I draw to your attention that a purpose is required as well as a nomination and a recipient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Westwood, I believe you've already spoken to this.
I would like to make a personal statement if I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mayor. I completely understand the CEO's comments. I completely and I agree. And if required, I have purposes for my donations written here in front of me, and I can announce them to the meeting if you wish.
Please do.
So the NDRA donation would be towards their PA system. The land care would be tools and equipment as required for their working bees. And the Hardware Institute would be for maintenance.
Thank you for that personal statement. Is there anybody else who would like to speak or make a personal statement? Councillor Grosser.
The National Trust is people that are
Just a personal statement.
as in, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. The National Trust attempting to restore the Dun Crypt, which is an iconic feature of the district and needs major works to the tune of $20,000. Hills Biodiversity engaged in a number of projects that conform very strongly with council objectives on environmental sustainability. Rocket Performing Arts and Arts, both their programs engaging socially disadvantaged youth, special needs groups, and provide a lot of community development work really had a fraction of the cost that it would cost council to, and it's a small token of appreciation and support for these programs that they're running for the benefit of our community, engaging youth, that primarily youth that need to be engaged.
Thank you for that personal statement, Councillor Gross. Anybody else wish to speak before I invite Councillor Orr to close the debate?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Miller, if possible, would you go scroll up to mine? I believe I provided a reason. I would just like to check if they're in there. They are. Thank you very much for that. The only other comment that I would add is that I believe that award donations should go towards groups that are operating and providing a benefit to our direct ward. It's good to support district-wide events, but I personally would aim more so for that ward level, more so than a state-wide level or even a district level. It is really intended to support your ward and your ward alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Orr. All those in favour? Carried. We move to item number 13, information reports. There are nil. Item 14, quarterly reports. I will take those 4 reports on block and discuss them separately. If somebody would like to move Thank you, councillor Hewitt. Is there a seconder? Councillor Westwood. We'll start with the first one, the wastewater service quarterly report. Councillor Hewitt, or you have anything to say?
No, nothing to add.
Any other member? I'll wait for the end and we'll move on block. 14.2, report on annual business plan performance measures. Anybody wish to speak to that? 14.3, RDA quarterly project report. Councillor Roth, we have the floor.
In relation to the 14.2,
Sure.
you're just wondering with the guide to the housing guide, the houses of tomorrow. Are we managing to get that into the document on sustainable housing into sales officers of the developers? Are they on board with helping to promote this, very good scheme to get more sustainable, climate emergency housing built?
Thanks for your question. I'll invite Mr. Bortman on behalf of the CEO to answer that question, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, there's two different items you're talking about, councillor Groff. The first is the designing and constructing your home, which is an information book that council prepared a number of years ago. That's in every building we've provided, that's every building company that's active in the district as well as developers. The House of Tomorrow project, which this relates to, is a project that's looking forward at influencing built form outcomes moving forward. We're working with the Resilient Hills and Coast through the Southern Hills LGA to undertake that project as a region-wide initiative, influencing built form outcomes in our growth areas.
And would we consider if some developers are more proactive in promoting this information that we're trying to disseminate and influence home buyers in having on our website a little bit of recognition of these developers that are doing the right thing? I suggested that with responsible cafes many years ago before we had a waste resource policy that a lot of councils around the country actually promote on the website page cafes that have discounts for bring your own cup to cut down on the packaging waste. And our council never took that up, but could we promote the developers who do the right thing?
I'll invite the senior directors, I don't invite the general manager to respond to that question on behalf of the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, we profiled a project being the passive house, which is an example of an airtight house built in accordance with passive standards on our website, and also done video documentation of that built form outcome. We do need to be careful about promoting individual development outcomes over others from a competitive neutrality perspective. But we are working where there are examples to showcase that from a demonstration perspective, and that's been presented on council's social media, Facebook.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Thank you.
Anybody else keen to speak to this item? Before we go on to, we'll do 14.3 again just for completeness. Regional Development Australia, anybody wish to speak to that? 14.4, Southern Hills Local Government Association update report. Sorry, Aaron, I'm looking down.
Sorry, I was a bit hard to keep up. Bouncing around all those reports. On page 145, there's a statement in here that says the LGA is applying very strict interpretation of the process regarding interaction of LGAs, SARAC and LGA staff and regional LGAs. And I don't have the context exactly in front of me, because that's far around the page. However, with me. Well, I guess it's how the Southern Hills Local Government Association are working with a regional LGA. Is there some sort of problem going on here has, in terms of the relationship, because this sounds to me like, is this an introduction of some potential rule? Sticking to rules, is it mission creep? What's actually happening? Is it one of those statements that make me think, what does that all mean?
Then, I have read the report and I've been to the past two meetings and I'm afraid, Councillor, I cannot answer your question. I invite the CEO to fill that one or to pass it.
Through you, Mayor, this was at the meeting at which venue was that? The one that I was at? I thought I'd have to follow it up and get some detail behind it, but it was a general concern about the LGA working, I guess, look, it's a general concern. I think it'd be better if I did some thorough research and just get some detail to you. I don't want to misrepresent the situation. No, thank you. It's just, yeah, no, I'd be much more comfortable if I'm able to look at the minutes and refresh my memory of it. No, I'm sort of aware of the situation where when there's a dispute in a workplace, you'll have a work to rule process, which is a means of slowing things down and making life difficult for everyone as a bargaining chip. And I'm hoping we're not doing this. There must be something behind it. I look forward to your the product of your research as to what that might mean.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you. We're still on 14.4 Southern Hills Local Government Association update report. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak to this? In that case, I'll take all four reports on block. All those in favour? Carried. With item 15, the Mayor's report, which details what the Mayor has been up to in the past 30 days. At this point, I'll rise to my feet to discuss the very last point there. I received an email this morning from the family of Esme Jean Luck, OAM, advising me that she had passed away on the last day of May. I passed on my condolences to the family, and they are seeking some form of bench to remember this woman who has done a tremendous amount of work for this council decades ago and for decades. So I take this opportunity in my Mayor's report to pay my respects to Esme Jean Luck and her families. Thank you. Somebody moved that the Mayor's report be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt and Councillor Stilati. All those in favour? Carried. I see a member's report from Councillor Stilati. And as always, invite any of you councillors who wish to submit your report to the Minute Secretary prior to the meeting to do so. I now ask for any questions from the gallery. We have one member of the gallery, whose name is Zoe. We welcome you to the gallery as our sole gallery member. If you have a question, please come to the front, and you don't just. Fine, thank you very much, Ms. Zoe. Just while that is going on, yes, Councillor.
I just wanted to say I also submitted a member's report, so just for clarity.
Excellent, and
I'm not sure it was received.
yes, there has been some issue with emails very slightly, and I'll ensure that your report is included in the minutes, and thank you for reminding me in time. Does anybody else have any other report that they wish to make note of? Sure. So it's at this stage of the meeting that I seek a motion from a councillor that pursuant to section 93 I, pursuant to substance section 92 of the Local Government Act 1999, the council orders that all members of the public, except the Chief Executive Officer, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, General Manager Governance, Strategic Project and Wastewater, Recycled Water, Executive Manager to the CEO, General Manager Infrastructure,